In 2014, the United States faces a near economic collapse, prompting the government to establish a totalitarian regime led by the new founding fathers of America. They then introduce a phenomenon known as the Purge. Once a year, from 7 p.m. on March 21st until 7 a.m. the following morning, all criminal acts, including murder, are declared legal. This event is intended to serve as a release for the American people, allowing them to unleash suppressed anger and dark impulses on whomever they choose. Next, we meet a man named James Sandin, who is a security system sales agent heading home after work as the purge is about to begin tonight. On the way, he listens to the radio, which reveals that poor and homeless people are huge targets of the purge since they cannot afford their own safety. The host asks several people about their plans for tonight, and a woman says she will lock herself in all night behind her new security system, while another man says that he's going hunting for his boss. The host informs listeners that this year will be one of the busiest purges yet, believing that the streets will be stained red with violence. Shortly after, James arrives at his home in a wealthy neighborhood, and there are only 62 minutes left before the annual purge begins. He warmly greets his wife, Mary, and mentions that his day was exhausting, as many clients requested demonstrations of his security systems. He asks where the children are, and Mary tells him they are in their rooms. Before he walks away, Mary urges him to intervene regarding their daughter, Zoe, and her boyfriend, explaining that Zoe has been throwing tantrums all day. James responds that there's not much he can do, and then announces that he has good news for the whole family. Later, we see James's daughter, Zoe, having fun with her boyfriend, Henry, in her room. She tells him she loves him, and they continue kissing, but she gets worried to hear her father's voice. Zoe thus tells Henry to get home before the purge begins and asks him to stay safe. As Henry climbs down from the balcony, he and Zoe notice one of the neighbors intensely sharpening his machete, clearly preparing for the purge. Later, Mary is in her garden when her friendly neighbor Grace arrives and hands her a plate of cookies. At that moment, other neighbors, the Halversons, pass by and wish them safety before driving away. Grace then comments on Mary's spectacular house renovation and mentions that rumors are circulating that the renovation was paid for by all their neighbors, since all of them bought security systems from James. This unsettles Mary, but Grace reassures her that it's harmless gossip and she shouldn't worry about it. Mary then asks if Grace is throwing a purge party this year as usual, but Grace says not this time. They both wish each other luck before Mary goes inside to secure the family for the night. Later, Mary is working in the kitchen when she is startled by a remote-controlled doll with a car. It turns out that her son Charlie is operating it remotely while watching everything through the doll's camera. An annoyed Mary asks him not to do this again and tells him to help set the table. Charlie then emerges from his secret hiding place in his bedroom closet and approaches his mother. He proudly explains the upgrades he's made to his little doll, Timmy, including night vision and an insulated motor. Charlie is also worried about the purge and feels bad for the victims, so Mary reminds him of the good this event does for the nation. The boy is still unconvinced, so she proceeds to distract him with food. Shortly after, the Sandin family sits down for dinner, during which James tries to connect with his children. However, they are mostly distant, especially Zoe, who behaves rudely toward her father. James then delivers his big news, announcing that he has achieved the top spot in security sales this year and will be receiving a substantial bonus. Mary is thrilled by the announcement, while Charlie and Zoe exchange a few playful jokes that offend their parents, though everyone ultimately ends up laughing. Moments later, Charlie points out that it's almost 7 p.m., and the family realizes the purge is about to begin. Everyone moves to a room with several monitors where they can watch the streets through CCTV cameras. They see some neighbors going hunting, while others attend Grace's party, and Mary is annoyed that her neighbor felt the need to lie to her. James then opens a vault and reveals several firearms as a precaution, though he is confident they won't need them. He then enters a security code, which blocks all the access points with an advanced security system. They turn on the television to hear the national message declaring that all crime will be legal for the next 12 hours. Moments later, a massive alarm blares, signaling that the purge has officially begun. James tells his children that while bad things may happen, they shouldn't worry because they can afford protection. Charlie asks why their parents don't participate in the purge, and James explains that they don't feel the need, since the night allows frustrated people to release pent-up anger. He assures them that the cleansing works, citing the decreased crime and poverty rates that follow after the purge. The unimpressed children head to their rooms, while James tells his wife she can relax as he finishes some work. Later, Zoe is in her room when she is shockingly surprised by Henry, who claims he snuck into the house while they were eating dinner. Zoe feels worried since if her father finds out, he will lose his mind. The couple begins to make out, but Henry suddenly stops and says he needs to talk to her dad. It turns out that James does not approve of their relationship, as he thinks Henry is too old for his daughter. Zoe says that talking to her dad is a bad idea, but Henry assures her that he will simply try to make James understand that he loves Zoe more than anything. Meanwhile, James is working in his office while listening to the news, where the host discusses the goals of the Purge, which is the eradication of the least productive members of society to reduce the economic burden. Charlie is playing with Timmy and drives the car to his father's room to watch what he is doing. Elsewhere, Mary is in the bathroom when she hears gunshots outside and is horrified. She nervously approaches her husband, but he reassures her that such sounds are expected and they will be fine. As Charlie keeps exploring the house, he enters the monitor room and notices someone running on the street outside. Meanwhile, Henry is very determined to persuade his father-in-law that the age difference is not a problem. James, on the other hand, is preoccupied with browsing yachts and tells his wife how, just 10 years ago, they could barely afford rent, and now they are extremely wealthy. Elsewhere, Charlie notices a man outside their home who appears injured and is desperately begging for help. He pleads with the residents to let him in for the night, which makes Charlie feel bad. Overcome with sympathy, Charlie makes a shocking decision and enters the security code, causing the doors to unlock. Moments later, James is also alerted, so he quickly reactivates the system before rushing downstairs. Just as the stranger enters the house, the doors lock again, and James draws his weapon at the intruder. In a shocking twist, Henry appears and opens fire on James, sparking a violent shootout between them. During the chaos, James manages to injure Henry severely, forcing him to retreat to another room, followed by a shaken Zoe. During the chaos, the stranger suddenly vanishes from sight, leaving the family deeply unsettled. Later, we see that Henry is on the verge of death, and a devastated Zoe is seen crying beside him. The rest of the family is in the monitor room, and James tells them he will go find his daughter and bring her to safety. He soon reaches Zoe's room, only to find Henry lifeless and his daughter nowhere in sight. James watches in horror while the stranger observes him from a distance before walking away. Back in the monitor room, things take an even darker turn when Charlie sees on the monitors a group of deranged, masked people approaching their house. Moments later, James hears noises outside and rushes to the monitor room, where he sees a group of deranged people gathered. They are ringing the doorbell, and the Purge leader takes the opportunity to introduce himself. He looks like a psychopath and explains that they are all educated people from wealthy families who go out every year to vent their anger. He points to a blue flower at the entrance, saying it shows that the family also supports the Purge. The leader recounts that they are chasing a poor man, and based on the neighbors' reports, he has sneaked into the Sandin house. He demands that the family hand the man over within a certain time, warning that if they fail, they will break in and will not hesitate to harm the entire family. With this, the deranged group cuts off the house's entire electricity supply as proof that they will follow through on their threat. This throws the family into a panic, and Mary asks her husband if it's possible for the Purgers to enter the house. James explains that although his security system is 99% impenetrable, there is always a chance they could break in using different methods. However, he assures her it won't come to that, as all they have to do is find the stranger and hand him over. The couple now arm themselves and begin searching for the stranger, while Charlie stares at the Purgers outside in horror. Afterwards, Charlie uses his remote-controlled doll, Timmy, to scout the house for the stranger. Using Timmy's night vision, he soon spots the man hiding behind a piece of furniture. Charlie then switches on the doll's flashlight to catch his attention. At first, the stranger is confused, but he quickly realizes the doll is guiding him and cautiously moves forward. Charlie thus decides to help the man and leads him to safely hide in the closet of his room. Elsewhere, Mary and James are seen frantically searching for the stranger, but without success. The Purge leader then demands that James come to the door for a conversation, and he reluctantly complies. The leader expresses his disappointment that they still haven't delivered the stranger, to which James explains that they are still searching for him. The Purge leader accuses James of protecting a homeless pig, who is nothing but a burden on society. James tries to clarify that it was a misunderstanding, and his young son accidentally let the man in. Otherwise, he fully supports the Purge. Upon hearing this, one of the Purgers begins screaming at him, prompting the leader to brutally shoot the man in the head. The leader then informs James that the man he just killed was a close friend, reminding James that he won't be spared if he fails to deliver the stranger. Elsewhere, Charlie is still scouting the house with Timmy when Zoe suddenly appears and informs her brother that she is heading to his secret hiding spot for safety. Charlie tries to stop her, but she proceeds anyway, which worries him. Moments later, James also arrives at the same room, and to his shock, he finds his daughter held by the stranger at gunpoint. Charlie tries to reason with him, but the stranger insists he will not release Zoe until the Purge is over. He claims he doesn't want to hurt anyone, while Charlie desperately tries to make him understand that his entire family is in danger because of him. Just then, Mary appears behind the stranger, and James tells his wife to shoot him, but before she can, the stranger reacts quickly, shoving Zoe against the wall and knocking her down. A tense fight ensues between James and the stranger, during which James manages to shoot him and knock him unconscious. He then asks for ropes to tie the man up, but Charlie hesitates to do so. Later, just as they are about to secure him to a chair, the stranger regains consciousness. James thus instructs Mary to press the bullet wound with a letter opener to subdue the man further. Mary reluctantly complies, while Charlie is horrified and pleads with his mother to stop. After this, the couple continues tying the stranger to the chair, but Mary suddenly has a moment of self-reflection and says she can't do this. Her husband tries to convince her that it's a choice between the stranger and their family, but Mary insists that what they are doing is wrong. Charlie is also disgusted by his parents' actions and runs away, so Mary rushes after him. Meanwhile, Zoe approaches her father, who apologizes for killing Henry and tries to reassure her that everything will be fine, but she points out the treatment toward the stranger and says that nothing will ever be fine. At that moment, the stranger removes the duct tape from his mouth and asks James to save his family and deliver him outside. Elsewhere, while Mary searches for Charlie, she hears a loud noise outside and is horrified to see the Purgers using heavy machinery and chains to rip apart the house's security panels. She finds her husband and tells him that maybe he was right and they need to get the stranger out, but James shockingly says no and claims he has a plan. Out of nowhere, Charlie appears and asks what the plan is, so James hands his son a gun and instructs him to hide in the basement and not leave under any circumstances. Moments later, the Purge leader declares that the family has failed to meet the deadline, and they begin to forcibly break through the metal door. Mary and James arm themselves, preparing for the worst, while Charlie, who is hiding, is soon spotted by a Purger. The little boy is nearly killed, but at the last moment James arrives and shoots the attacker dead. After rescuing his son, James enters another room, where he encounters two more intruders, but he easily manages to end their lives. As James prepares to leave the room, the Purge leader suddenly appears and stabs him in the stomach. He asks James if his life was worth saving the homeless pig and thanks him for sacrificing himself before kissing him on the forehead. Elsewhere, as the Purgers continue terrorizing the house, Charlie notices his neighbor, Grace, and her husband killing several masked attackers outside. Meanwhile, Mary is attacked by the Purgers, who pin her down and prepare to stab her, but at the last moment, she is saved by Mr. and Mrs. Halverson, who quickly move to fight off the other attackers. A shaken Mary gets up and rushes to her husband, who has been stabbed, while Charlie also appears to check on his father. Just then, the Purge leader arrives to kill them, but in a shocking turn of events, Zoe suddenly appears from nowhere and empties an entire magazine of bullets into him. After the psychotic leader is dead, the family rushes to check on James, but he soon passes away, leaving them devastated. Moments later, Grace, her husband, Mr. and Mrs. Halverson, and a few other neighbors arrive, so Mary realizes it was they who helped fight off the attackers. She thanks them, but Grace shockingly reveals that they did not come to help, but they came to kill the Sandin family themselves. As the neighbors tie up the family, Mary demands to know why they are doing this, so Grace coldly explains that everyone resents the Sandins for getting rich off them. Therefore, when they saw the security barricades fall, they saw it as the perfect opportunity to act. Upon hearing this, Mary begs them not to kill her children and breaks down in tears, but the cruel neighbors don't seem to care. They form a circle and begin reciting a purge prayer, but while they're distracted, the stranger suddenly appears and kills one of the neighbors. He then grabs Grace and demands that they release the Sandins. With this, the stranger manages to free the family and holds the neighbors at gunpoint. Grace asks him to make their deaths quick, but Mary shockingly says that she has seen enough death for one night. She chooses to spare their lives and forces everyone to sit and wait together until the purge is over. Later, all of them are seen sitting around the dining table, where Mary looks bitterly at those she once considered her friends. As the purge is about to end, Grace makes one last attempt to grab the shotgun from Mary, but Mary strikes her in the nose with the butt of the gun and then slams her head onto the countertop, screaming that they all should have had enough of the purge. Shortly after, a loud siren blares, announcing that the purge is over and everyone begins heading back to their homes. The stranger finally leaves as well, but not before wishing Mary and her family good luck. The movie ends with Mary and her children walking to the front door as emergency service vehicles arrive to remove the bodies of the murdered purgers.